Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Training Tuesday. I know I said you guys would be hanging out with Brett today, but unfortunately, you're stuck with me again. So we're continuing the series on busking and how to kind of help you guys out through festival season. We're back in our festival show, same one we had last week. And this time we're going to talk about the execute screen, regions, and something that everybody wants to know about and has a hard time with the first few times, which is soft pallets. So same show as last week. So we got our spots, our washes, our beams, just a typical basic 3-truss festival rig. In the execute screen, we have several things we can do here. So this show has a handful of things already built. So we have things like macros for playbacks 1 through 10. Don't worry about those. That's a weird thing with this show. But we have some effects, we have some faders, we have a color picker, we have more color picker, we have even more color picker and a position picker. And we're going to show you, obviously we're not going to build all of this, but we're going to show you how to assemble these things and some other tricks that you can use to speed up your workflow and make sure that you have something cool going on without putting a lot of work in. So first things first, we're going to come to an empty execute screen. We're going to go to set grid size. We're just going to set a 12 by 12. That's a comfortable size for all the consoles. Remember that the bigger the screen, the more boxes you can fit, the bigger the grid can be, and they still be usable. On the little desks and the big desks, obviously, you can fit a lot more on the M series or the Stadium series consoles. But I found a 12 by 12 is pretty comfortable no matter what console you go on to. It's still big enough to be usable on the little desks and not ridiculously large on the big desks. And we're going to put some stuff in here. So we're going to primarily deal with color today, just so it's easy to see. And I'm probably going to grab, let's say our beams. Yeah, let's grab our beams. We're going to put them in a position just to keep them set. And I'm going to zoom them all the way down so there's some definition there. Yeah. And I'm just going to throw that on a playback just so we can see what's going on. We don't have to keep turning the lights on. So we need to put something on this execute screen. The things we're going to put on here are going to be our beams. So we're going to copy our beams. We'll copy the whole group of them into here. And then we need some stuff to play with. So we'll grab some colors. We'll grab the basic 10 colors, white to magenta, and we'll pop them in here as well. Now from here, we don't need to go into the fancy stuff for soft palettes if we're in a hurry. We could actually just use the screen as is, and nothing special has to happen. Now this is all going in the programmer, so we can, at the end of the song, we can clear it out. If we say 3 clear, we get a nice fade out to white. But by adding regions, we get a lot more flexibility. So by coming in here and selecting all of these, actually I'm going to put a second region in here of just one set of beams. So we'll just take beam 3. That way I can show you how it's filtering things. We'll take the same colors. And we'll set this region by dragging across here and saying set region. We'll do that for both of these. Now that we've done that, this region will only apply to this fixture. So, if I grab all of them, see they go through and they change all the beam colors. Or sorry, beam colors. The color of the beam fixtures. But if I grab beam 3, you see that it's only changing the one set of fixtures. I can do this as many times as I want. I can do it with any pallets. Again, we're using color as an example, but position works, beam works, all of that works. And I can separate out my rig and be able to say I want my beams to be red, my spots to be blue, my whatever's to be whatever color, or to point in this position, and I can choose based off of the region that they're in very easily. Now with these, we have a really cool little cheat here, which is called the busking shortcut. So I'm going to move these guys down a little bit. If I click a box that's empty and I come up top to this button that says assign special, there's a ton of really cool stuff in here for assign special. There's timing, rate parameters, effects, all that. But what we want just to get all of them in there is the all busking one. That's kind of the quick and easy way to just slap them all in there. We'll do it again. Oops, don't set a region. We want to go to assign special. Say all busking, and we're going to include these shortcuts into the region. So we're going to drag across, we're going to set the region, drag across, set the region. What this has given me now is the ability to do some fancy stuff. If I want a 3-second fade to blue, all I have to do is click 3 seconds, and this persists. So if I go to yellow, it's going to fade to yellow. If I go to magenta, it's going to fade to magenta. I can do directions. So if I do in to out to amber, now the selection order in this group's a little odd. So the in to out's going to be a little weird, but you see that it is taking the timing. I have the ability to quickly put chases of various types in here, intensity chases, zoom chases. I can do a 3-color effect by using the set color option. So I can set color 1 red, set color 2 white, set color 3 blue, and say 3-color effects. And it's going to start scrolling a red, white, and blue effect. I can make that snap. I can give it 3 parts. So again, very quickly, I can come in here and slam out something that works. We do have a tap to time. So if we wanted to tap this, good. And all of what we're doing right now goes into the programmer. So if we look at our programmer, we have our dim chase, our zoom chase, our 3-color effects. So if we wanted to mess with those some more, we can come in here and say center out. Yeah, and we can modify this however we need to. We can play with the timing and anything else. We can also remove the effects. So if I want everything to go away, I can simply hit remove effects. And we can clear out the programmer and go back to where we were. So again, this is a nice simple way to throw something up there, have something to play with, and be able to make the lights flash in a hurry. When you think about it, other than this one beam group down here, we didn't create any of this. The desk auto-generated the group for all the beams. We might want to update it based on selection order. But we didn't create that. We didn't create the base 10 colors. The desk created that for it. And all of these busking shortcuts were auto-generated. So from the time you patch to being able to make the lights blink in some sort of logical way, takes less than a minute to have something up, be able to have a color picker for some effects and do some fancy stuff. Now, beyond this, we move into that realm of soft palettes. Soft palettes start the same way. We copy a group, we copy some colors. However, we don't do these busking shortcuts, so we're going to make them go away. And we have to create something special here called the soft palette. Now, with that soft palette, there's nothing super fancy about it. It's just a palette. So in this case, I am going to grab our washes and we're going to get them into the mix. There we go. And we'll just record this here. There we go. So we'll copy our washes onto that execute screen. And we're actually just going to remove 3. Now we got 2 completely different types of fixtures to play with. So what we're going to do to get started with the soft palettes, we're going to grab whatever groups we want to be part of that soft palette. Generally, you would probably do this for the whole rig. We're just going to do it for these 2 fixtures here. We're going to go to color. I already have some down here, but we'll make a new one. I'm just going to click white. And I'm going to make sure that with each of these that I have all of the information for color that I want to control in the programmer. So here I have RGBW for the X4s. If I click the axioms, I have CMY, I have CTO. I don't have the color wheel. I probably want that. And we have the other CTO channel. So everything's good. Everything's there. We can also check our programmer, make sure we have everything we want to control, because the soft palette's only going to control what you put in it. Now from here, I'm just going to record a normal palette. We're going to call this soft new. I already have a soft one. You can put an icon on it. I put the low 3-color one on those, but it's kind of irrelevant. Generally, I like to make sure they're unlinked just so that nothing weird happens with them. And then we can now tell this it's soft up top here before we ever go to the execute screen and say set soft. You don't have to do it that way. That's a new feature. And we'll take this fancy new soft palette that we created. We'll copy it into our region here, and it already says 3S, so we're good to go there. If you don't use that set soft or you're on older software, you would come in here and just copy the palette normally, and then you'd go to item type, and there's an option here for soft. That's the older way of doing it. We'll copy this down here. So we put the soft palette in both regions. Now, as of right now, this region's not really going to do anything. It's actually going to work the same as, or sorry, it's not going to do anything at all right now. Because there's nothing special going on. The trick with a soft palette is a soft palette has to be used in a queue. So right now, this queue if we look at it, the color is just a located value. There's no reference. Now, if I had white in there, it would be referenced to white. If I had blue, it would be referenced to blue, just like normal palettes. And the soft palettes still wouldn't do anything. What we want to see here is we want the palette reference for color to be referencing soft, or in this case, soft new. So we would grab these guys, we click our fancy soft palette, and I'm going to merge that into this playback. Now, if we look at that queue, you see that we are referencing soft new. Now, I did it with a different group, and I am in group queues, so ignore the fact that there's these three guys that still say locate. We have our axioms down here. That takes priority because it's lower in the queue list. So now you see the lights are already the color that was chosen. So now if I go to cyan for the beams, they go to cyan. If I go to magenta for the washes, they go there. So now I have a color picker. And the cool thing about this is nothing ever touches the programmer. The programmer is still wide open for me to busk and add stuff and do whatever I need to do for my show. And I don't have to worry about dealing with juggling the programmer and the playbacks. It's actually live updating the value in this queue. If I deactivate this queue and turn it back on, it's going to be right back in that color until I tell it to be something different. The other really cool thing about soft palettes is they use the timing in the queue. So for example, if I come in here and I put a 3-second fade time on this queue that has the soft palette in it, and I choose some new colors, they're going to fade over 3 seconds. What this means is I can actually create a bunch of different queues to choose timing on the execute screen. So we'll put that back to 0. And what we'll do is we'll grab our 2 sets of fixtures. We'll go to color. And we'll actually cheat a little bit here, and we'll shrink up our execute screen so we can do this without flipping screens back and forth. And I'm going to say 3-second fade to our new soft palette. And we're going to record that. We're going to do 3 star to do a left to right to our new soft palette. And we're going to record that. We're going to do 3 star plus, which should give us a center out to our new soft palette. And we're going to record that. So there we've just made a series of cues that contain nothing but the soft palette. So if we view them, we have our 2 groups of fixtures and our soft palettes. And then we have a little bit of fancy timing going on in some of them. Nothing special, just a queue. We haven't told it it's anything special. We can go through here and name these real fast. Let's do fade. Let's do forward. And let's do center out. Now in the execute screen, I can grab all of these. I can put them in their own region. And then I can come to item type over here where we set the soft palette earlier. This time, because they're queues, I have more options. We're going to choose solo. What that says is only allow me to pick one of these at a time. See that they won't all activate. I can only activate one at a time. So now I can pick the transition I want. If I say nothing, the lights are going to snap to whatever color I choose. If I turn on fade, I'm not sure why my impressions aren't working there. Impression X4s. Make a liar out of me. Group 4003. That all looks right. Oh, maybe because I had junk in the programmer. That might have been part of it. There we go. Helps to clear your programmer. We all fall for it. So now with fade on, if I pick a color, I get a fade. If I pick forward, you see that as I pick a color, it's doing the transition forward from one color to another. If I pick center out, I guess it's center in on this one, I get my transition. So now I can quickly pick how I want my fixtures to transition. I can pick what color I want. I can break this up and have this happen per queue, or sorry, not per queue, per fixture type. Or I can just have general blanket times for the whole rig. Very, very simple. This same concept of putting cues in a region also applies to your effects. So we can grab, this kind of brings everything together. We can grab a set of soft pallets. So if I make a couple more of these, I'm not going to copy this 3 times. I already have them down. Actually, we will copy those. We're going to copy this guy here. We're going to copy this guy here. Again, I'm going to make sure they're unlinked. We're going to come in here and say new 2, new 3, and new, we'll just rename that to new 1. That way they make sense. Again, they're already soft. So we're going to copy these guys here, pop them down there. We will take our group with our colors, copy them here, copy it one more time. So we're doing the same thing 3 times. 3 different soft palettes, but the 3 same regions. Now, if I grab my spots, turn the washes off because we're not going to see them do anything. Oh. Grab my spots. We'll add an effects. We'll go to color. We'll choose a 3 color effect. Instead of choosing real colors, though, we're going to choose new 1, new 2, new 3. Nothing's going to happen right now because I don't have anything chosen in those regions. They're all set to green. But we will record this and we will call it color effects. Now, if I choose that 3 color effects and I was to say red, white, and white and blue, you see the effect is running. So now I have a color picker where I can change the color of my effects however I want. If I want to modify this, that's fine. It's just a cue and it's just an effect. So if we want to go to view effects, we want to make it go center in. We want the crossfade to be 20 so it's a little sharper. No, we can modify this to our heart's content, but the goal here is to keep the reference as our 3 soft palettes. In addition, once it's in a queue, if we come over here and we do our fade in, fade out, and we were to do a 2-second fade in, fade out, which is a bit excessive, but at least we'll see it. Now when I go red, blue, and green, if I don't jump the timing, let's try that again. Let's go cyan. See the transition fades, yellow, transition fades. Now I'm not getting a jump every time I pick a color. It's actually fading the transition within the effect. So building color pickers, building interactive things, and again, we're still doing this without ever touching the programmer. Programmer's completely clear. Is pretty awesome. You can build some very complex pages here, similar to what I have going on here, where I have color pickers and I have different effects in different regions. These are all set to solo, so I can only pick one of them at a time. And then I have other options in here to turn them off and things like that. We can also filter effects within a region. So we'll turn our color effect off. Turn these guys back on. If we were to grab beam 1, beam 2, beam 3, so the 3. Actually, how do I want to do this? Let's do this with the washes again. Let's turn our washes back on. It's probably a little bit easier. There we go. So we'll grab our washes and our beams. We'll double tap effects. We'll put a position effect on them. Just a simple circle. Dial that size into something a little more reasonable. We'll make it pretty. And we will tell it, because we've used group effects, we'll tell it within groups, which is going to apply it to the spots, the beams, and the washes individually. That'll make it a little bit prettier. And what we'll do is we will record that here. Call this our circle. Now that circle, this queue contains all of those lights, all the washes and all the beams. But what if I just want to make my washes move or just want to make my beams move? Well, I can copy that here. We'll move these guys somewhere else because we don't need them. we'll set this region to include that cue with that circle effect. Now, just like the colors, how the colors only apply to the fixtures that are in here, the same applies for our circle effect. If I click it here, only the beams are going to have that circle effect. If I click it here, only the washes are going to have that circle effect. If I turn them both on, I get both of them. So now I can literally just write everything into my entire rig. Everything has a circle. Everything has a color effect. Everything has a dim chase. I don't have to think about, well, I want it on this piece. I want it on that piece. I want it on the other piece. Literally just take the whole rig and say everything. And then I can use the regions to break it up and pick and choose what that thing applies to, saving me a ton of time and also giving me a lot more flexibility. Because of these, and with the added flexibility of things like grid-based effects and things like that, it means as you're morphing, you're cloning, you're moving from rig to rig, if you're running around just using festival house rigs, your day gets a lot easier trying to adapt to other fixtures, other rigs, other things like that, because you can just keep riding this page in the group queues you create, because yes, these are group queues. So if we look at it, actually that one only has effects in it. That one doesn't do us much good. But if we look at our timing ones, these are still just plain old group queues. Nothing special, nothing fancy. So you get all the power of group queues, you get all the power of group effects, you get all the power of the grid-based effects, and now you have all of the power of these interactive screens where you can pick and choose things using soft pallets, using regions, using solo, using timing, and things like that to give you a pretty awesome show without ever actually writing one actual queue stack. Need some intensity faders like we talked about last week. Throw some stuff in the execute screen and you can busk at almost any show. Pretty rad. I could keep rambling for hours about stuff in here, just to kind of give you an overview. Something like this is just a region with a soft palette that shares position and color. There's nothing too special going on here. These again are effects in regions. So if I came in here and said that 4/4, things like that. These are no effects or zero effects. Playback set to high priority. So if I don't want the washes to chase, I can turn that off. Just again, regular queue stacks here, regular queue stacks here. Here I have faders for zoom. So I don't have to think about zoom because I zoomed them all the way down. They aren't going to work right now. But if we zoom them back out, we can come in here and zoom beam and zoom wash. So I can interactively play with those. And again, these are just playbacks. All I've done is come in here and hold them in item type that they're a fader. And then I just make sure that I record my queue stacks or my queues down here to have zoom at full. These have zoom at 0. Now I have an LTP fader that I can easily control the zoom of my fixtures. So you can get some really creative things. Here's a color picker for our color effects. So if we go red, white, blue, and we do 3 color, get red, white, blue. Yeah, so lots of cool stuff going on here, and lots of stuff you can play with. Again, as I mentioned, soft palettes is something everybody kind of messes up the first few times. Usually where people mess up is they forget to create the new palette, and then they forget that that palette has to be in a queue. Soft palettes will only work if the palette is used in an active queue. If I turn this queue off and I make another queue stack that just has the fixtures on, turn that effect off real fast. That's not going to help us see our color change. Our soft palettes are going to do nothing. Because again, this queue no longer has the reference that it needs to the soft palette to allow that to work. So be careful when you first start playing with it. Take your time, think it through, think about how it works, and you'll have a pretty good success rate. They work great once you understand them and you understand that it has to be there like that. They work amazingly well, and it allows you an amazing level of interactivity. Great. I see Dan saying no questions so far. That's surprising. Normally there's a million questions about these. Or Ash. That's Ash there. That's not Dan. Hi, Ash. Sorry. All right. Well, if there's no questions, thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you found something useful here, something you guys can go play with. Check back. I think we got one more. One more in this series, I think. Maybe two more in this series. I think it's one more in this series. There's only 3 weeks in this month. So check it out. I don't recall what exactly the topic for next time is, but make sure you check us out next week for the third part of this. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can skim through some of the old videos on Facebook for Training Tuesdays. I think we're working on, are we moving those over to YouTube? If not, we're going to start going forward. We're going to have it on YouTube for you guys viewing us on YouTube. That'll become a regular thing. You can find us at www.chamsyslighting.com, and I think I'm done. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.